My name is Jessica, and today I am going to tell you something that I've carried inside my chest for years, something that feels like a poison I've swallowed every single day of my life. And it's about the people who should have loved me the most, my family, but instead they treated me like a burden, like I was never enough, like I was disposable, and for the longest time I believed them. Until the day I decided I wasn't going to be their victim anymore, I was going to be their biggest regret. I grew up in a small town outside of Chicago, in a modest house where everything looked normal from the outside, a white picket fence, a well-mowed lawn, and a smiling family in church every Sunday, but behind closed doors it was a war zone where my mother Sarah and father David constantly reminded me that I wasn't their favorite, that my brother Michael was the golden child who could do no wrong, while I, Jessica, was the problem, the mistake, the ungrateful daughter who never seemed to satisfy them. I remember being 10 years old and winning a spelling bee at school, so excited to show my family the trophy, but when I walked through the door holding it proudly, my mother glanced at it once and said, "That's nice, but Michael just made varsity basketball. That's real achievement." And my father didn't even look up from his newspaper, and Michael smirked at me like he'd already won, like my light would never shine brighter than his. And from that moment, I realized my victories didn't matter. Not in that house. Years passed, and the same pattern repeated. Birthdays where my cake was smaller, Christmas mornings where my gifts were cheap compared to Michael's, family dinners where my opinions were dismissed like background noise, and the cruelest part was that they did it so casually, like it wasn't abuse, but just the natural order of things, like I should accept being the afterthought. By the time I got into high school, I had learned to hide in the shadows, to keep my dreams and hopes to myself, because every time I dared to share them, they would either laugh or remind me that I wasn't capable. And the one time I told my mom that I wanted to be a writer, she rolled her eyes and said, "Writers starve. Jessica, stop living in fantasy. Learn something useful like accounting, or else you'll end up depending on us forever." And those words cut deeper than any knife, because all I wanted was her encouragement, her belief in me. But instead I got her disdain, the betrayal. That broke me, though, happened when I was 19 in college, trying so hard to survive on scholarships and part-time jobs because my parents refused to support me financially the way they supported Michael, who had his entire tuition paid for at a prestigious university, while I had to work double shifts at a diner just to pay rent. But I still believed that maybe, just maybe, if I proved myself, they'd finally see me, finally love me the way they loved him. I got accepted into a national writing competition, one that could change my life, and I poured every ounce of my soul into that story, staying up all night, bleeding my emotions onto the paper, and when I finally told my parents about it, hoping for once they would be proud, they laughed, actually laughed, and my father said, "Do you really think anyone cares what you have to say? Writers aren't special, they're losers who can't face the real world." And my mom added, "You should focus on Michael's graduation instead. That's something worth celebrating." And I went to my room that night crying so hard I couldn't breathe, wondering why God gave me a family that despised me. And the worst betrayal came a week later, when I discovered that Michael had submitted a story to the same competition, using my idea, something I had told him in confidence, a detail about a character I'd been building for years, and when I confronted him, he shrugged and said, "Well, you are never going to win anyway. Might as well let someone talented take it." And my parents defended him, saying, "He's just ambitious. You should be proud of your brother." And that was the night something inside me snapped. The night I realized I would never get justice from them unless I created it myself. So I did. I stopped trying to win their love. I stopped begging for their approval. And instead I started working in silence, putting every ounce of anger, every scar, every betrayal into my writing. And for months I lived like a ghost, working at the diner during the day, writing all night, saving money, building something in secret that none of them could touch. And then 1 year later, when Michael thought he had destroyed me completely, when my parents still ignored me like I didn't exist, I submitted my manuscript to a publisher under a pen name, and to my shock, to my relief, to my absolute vindication, it got accepted, not just accepted but celebrated, and the book became a bestseller, and my words they called worthless, were suddenly powerful enough to reach thousands of people across the country. The day it hit the shelves, I walked into my parents' house unannounced, holding a copy of the book in my hand, and the look on their faces when they realized the author was me was worth every tear I had ever shed. My mother's jaw dropped, my father's newspaper slipped from his hands, and Michael's smug smile faded into pure rage, because for once, I wasn't the disappointment. I was the success story. The one the world was applauding, but I didn't stop there, because justice isn't just about proving them wrong. It's about making them feel the weight of every wound they gave me. So when journalists came knocking for interviews, I told the truth. I told them about the selfish family who belittled me, who crushed me, who stole from me, and I didn't hold back. I revealed the biggest secret of my life to the world, that behind the perfect family photo was a nest of cruelty, and that their golden boy wasn't golden at all but a thief, a liar, and a bully, and soon everyone knew. Neighbors whispered, church members turned away, Michael lost job offers, and my parents were forced to live with the shame of what they had done. And maybe some people think revenge is ugly, but to me it felt like breathing for the first time. It felt like standing tall after years of being forced to kneel. It felt like justice, because finally, after all the cruelty, after all the betrayal, I was the one who got to walk away with my head high, and they were the ones left drowning in their own selfishness. And that's why I'm telling you this today, not because I want pity, but because I want the world to know that sometimes the family you're born into will never love you the way you deserve. Sometimes they will betray you, break you, and try to silence you, but you have the power to write your own ending, to take your pain and turn it into something greater, something that not only heals you but exposes the truth. And that truth is my revenge, my freedom, and the justice I always craved.